Implementation of Trump's 5-point strategy in Gaza by Q2 2024. Overview. The proposed implementation of Donald Trump's 5-point strategy in Gaza set for completion by the second quarter of 2024 involves a substantial financial commitment of $1.8 billion directed towards infrastructure investment and the deployment of advanced technology. This initiative aims to enhance surveillance and intelligence sharing across various defense sectors in a region long marred by conflict and instability. The announcement of this strategy has ignited a wave of debate and controversy highlighting the complexities of international intervention in the Gaza Strip. Key phases and investment. The 5-point strategy outlines several critical phases designed to stabilize Gaza through infrastructure development and technological enhancements. The core components include 1. Infrastructure investment. The plan allocates $1.8 billion to rebuild and modernize essential infrastructure in Gaza. This includes the construction of roads, schools, hospitals, and utilities, which are crucial for restoring normalcy and providing basic services to the population. 2. Technological deployment. A significant focus is placed on enhancing surveillance capabilities and establishing robust intelligence sharing mechanisms. This technology aims to improve security measures, prevent militant activities, and facilitate cooperation among defense sectors. 3. Governance and security framework. The strategy proposes frameworks for governance that align with security measures intending to create a stable environment conducive to economic development and social cohesion. Common key points. Across various analyses, several common themes emerge regarding the implications of Trump's 5-point strategy. 1. Investment necessity. Analysts unanimously agree on the pressing need for substantial investment in Gaza's infrastructure, recognizing that the current state of disrepair contributes to ongoing instability. 2. Surveillance and intelligence. There is a collective acknowledgement that advanced surveillance and intelligence sharing capabilities are pivotal for enhancing security, although they raise ethical and privacy concerns. 3. Controversy and backlash. The strategy has incited significant backlash from multiple stakeholders, including international organizations, local leaders, and human rights advocates who criticize the approach as potentially unlawful and ethically questionable. Differences between sources. The perspectives on Trump's 5-point strategy vary significantly among sources, highlighting the complexity and contentiousness of the initiative. Source 1: NPR. NPR emphasizes the broader implications of American intervention, suggesting that the plan may involve mass relocation of populations. This raises ethical concerns about the displacement of residents and the potential humanitarian crisis that could ensue. Source 2: Al Jazeera. Al Jazeera reports on strong pushback from UN officials who label elements of the plan as unlawful. They warn that the strategy could exacerbate tensions and instability in the region, further complicating the already fragile situation. Source 3: Reuters. Reuters captures the reaction from Hamas officials, who express alarm over Trump's remarks about taking control of Gaza. Their warnings indicate fears of escalated conflict and unrest, suggesting that the plan may provoke resistance from militant groups. Timeline of events. The timeline of events surrounding the announcement and implementation of the 5-point strategy is as follows. 1. Announcement of the 5-point strategy early 2025. Trump publicly outlines his vision for Gaza, emphasizing the need for investment and security improvements. 2. Initial reactions February 2025. Immediate backlash arises from UN officials and local leaders. Critics focus on the legality and ethical implications of the proposed strategy. 3. Responses from Hamas February 2025. In response to Trump's remarks, Hamas leaders warn of potential unrest and violence, indicating a strong resistance to the proposed changes. 4. International scrutiny. Ongoing discussions regarding the legality of the plan lead to increased international attention. Global leaders and organizations begin to weigh in on the implications of the strategy, adding to the controversy. Summary. Trump's five-point strategy for Gaza represents a multifaceted and contentious approach to addressing security and infrastructure needs in a region fraught with challenges. While the substantial financial investment and technological advancements aim to enhance stability and governance, the plan faces significant opposition from various stakeholders. Legal, ethical, and humanitarian concerns loom large, casting a shadow over the potential effectiveness of the proposed measures. The diverse reactions from local and international entities underscore the complexity of the situation as the implementation deadline approaches. As discussions continue, the future of the strategy remains uncertain, shaped by the interplay of local resistance, international scrutiny, and the broader geopolitical landscape. The path forward will require careful navigation to address both the immediate needs of the Gazan population and the long-term goal of sustainable peace and stability in the region. The content presents several counterintuitive points regarding Trump's five-point strategy in Gaza, especially when considering the expected outcomes versus the potential repercussions. Here are the key counterintuitive elements identified within the provided information. 1. Investment versus stability. While the strategy proposes a substantial $1.8 billion investment aimed at enhancing security and stability through infrastructure and technology, historical precedent suggests that significant foreign investment in conflict zones often does not directly correlate with improved stability. Instead, such interventions can lead to increased tensions and conflict, as local populations may feel their sovereignty is undermined. This juxtaposition highlights a counterintuitive notion: more money and resources do not necessarily lead to better outcomes in volatile regions. 2. Surveillance as a security measure. The emphasis on advanced surveillance and intelligence sharing is presented as a means to improve security and prevent conflicts. However, the introduction of such measures can often lead to increased mistrust among the local populace, potentially escalating rather than alleviating tensions. Communities subjected to heightened surveillance may react defensively, fostering resentment and resistance against perceived foreign intrusion. Thus, the idea that surveillance leads to security is counterintuitive when considering the social dynamics at play. 3. Population relocation concerns. NPR's coverage points to a potential mass relocation of populations as part of the strategy, which raises ethical and humanitarian concerns. The counterintuitive aspect here is that while the strategy aims to create a more stable environment, it could inadvertently lead to humanitarian crises and further destabilization. The relocation of populations often leads to displacement issues and community fragmentation, which contradicts the stated goal of enhancing stability. 4. Legal and ethical backlash. The strong pushback from UN officials and local leaders regarding the legality of the plan suggests that the proposed actions may contravene international laws or norms. The counterintuitive realization here is that an initiative designed to improve governance and security could instead undermine international law and human rights, leading to greater global condemnation and isolation rather than support for the initiative. 5. Responses from Hamas. The warnings from Hamas officials about potential unrest following Trump's remarks illustrate a counterintuitive dynamic. While the U.S. strategy aims to impose order and security, it may provoke exactly the opposite outcome. Rather than quelling dissent, the measures could incite further violence and resistance, demonstrating that strategies perceived as stabilizing can in reality ignite conflict. 6. International scrutiny versus domestic support. The plan's announcement has led to international scrutiny and criticism, suggesting that the strategy may alienate key allies and organizations. The counterintuitive element here is that a strategy intended to bolster U.S. influence and control in the region could instead weaken it, as global partners may distance themselves from a controversial approach that undermines established norms and cooperative frameworks. 7. Technological deployment versus human element. The reliance on technology for surveillance and intelligence gathering can overshadow the human element necessary for genuine peacebuilding efforts. The counterintuitive aspect is that while technology can enhance capabilities, successful governance in conflict regions often requires nuanced understanding, cultural sensitivity, and local engagement, elements that technology cannot replace. In summary, the implementation of Trump's 5-point strategy in Gaza. While ostensibly aimed at improving conditions through significant investment in technological advancements, may lead to unintended consequences that counteract its goals. The complexities of human behavior, local dynamics, and international law raise significant questions about the efficacy and morality of such interventions. The report on Trump's 5-point strategy in Gaza by Q2 2024 outlines a significant and controversial initiative that encompasses a $1.8 billion investment into infrastructure and technology aimed at enhancing surveillance and intelligence sharing in the region. While many discussions have centered around the financial commitment and the expected outcomes, there are several critical aspects that are often overlooked, yet they hold profound significance for understanding the broader implications of this strategy. Overlooked content. 1. Long-term impact on local governance. The plan suggests a robust framework for intelligence sharing and enhanced surveillance which could undermine local governance structures. While improved security is a stated goal, the implementation of such systems often leads to increased control over the populace, potentially stifling dissent and reducing civil liberties. This is significant as it raises questions about the balance between security and freedom and the potential for authoritarian governance under the guise of security improvements. 2. Ethical considerations in surveillance technology. The deployment of advanced surveillance technologies often comes with ethical dilemmas that are not fully addressed in the discussion. The implications of mass surveillance on privacy rights and civil liberties are profound. This aspect is significant because it highlights the potential for abuse of power and the infringement on human rights, particularly in a region already fraught with tension. The ethical ramifications of using technology for surveillance rather than community engagement or development could lead to long-lasting resentment among the population. 3. Reconstruction versus militarization. While infrastructure investment is presented as a means to stabilize Gaza, there is a crucial distinction between reconstruction efforts and militarization. The focus on surveillance technology can be perceived as an emphasis on control rather than genuine reconstruction. This dichotomy is significant because it influences how local communities perceive foreign intervention. If perceived as militaristic, it can lead to resistance and further conflict, undermining the very stability the strategy aims to achieve. 4. Influence of external stakeholders. The report briefly mentions the backlash from international organizations and local leaders, but the role of external stakeholders in shaping the strategy is often underrepresented. Countries involved in the region, including those with vested interests, may influence the dynamics of the implementation process. Understanding these geopolitical influences is significant as they can alter the effectiveness of the strategy and lead to unintended consequences that may escalate tensions rather than resolve them. 5. Potential for escalation of conflict. The reactions from Hamas officials indicate a strong potential for escalated conflict as a response to the proposed strategy. This aspect is significant because it points to a cyclical nature of violence that could ensue if the strategy is perceived as an occupation or an aggressive takeover. The historical context of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict suggests that any perceived threat to local autonomy can provoke violence, making it crucial to consider conflict resolution strategies alongside security measures. 6. Economic implications beyond initial investment. The $1.8 billion investment is substantial. But the report does not delve deeply into the long-term economic implications for Gaza. The effects of such investments on local economies, job creation, and the potential for dependency on foreign aid are critical factors that can influence the sustainability of any improvements made. This is significant because it raises questions about the economic autonomy of Gaza and the risk of perpetuating a cycle of dependency rather than fostering self-sufficiency. 7. Public perception and psychological impact. The psychological effects of heavy surveillance and military presence on the local population are often overlooked. The constant monitoring can lead to a climate of fear and distrust, impacting the community's mental health and social cohesion. Understanding the psychological ramifications is significant as they can hinder community rebuilding efforts and foster resentment towards both local and foreign authorities. 8. Legal justifications and international law. The legality of the proposed actions under international law is highlighted by various sources but often not discussed in detail. The implications of acting outside of international legal frameworks can have far-reaching consequences, including sanctions or increased isolation for the U.S. and its allies. This aspect is significant as it underscores the importance of adhering to international norms and the potential backlash of ignoring them. Conclusion. The implementation of Trump's 5-point strategy in Gaza is complex and multifaceted, with numerous implications that extend beyond the immediate financial investment and technological advancements. The overlooked content within the report emphasizes the need for a comprehensive understanding of the social, ethical, economic, and legal dimensions of the strategy. Addressing these aspects is vital not only for assessing the feasibility of the plan but also for anticipating the potential consequences on local communities and the broader geopolitical landscape. A nuanced approach that considers these dimensions is essential for fostering genuine stability and peace in Gaza. 1. Infrastructure investment of $1.8 billion. The commitment of $1.8 billion for rebuilding and modernizing Gaza's infrastructure is a central point of Trump's 5-point strategy. This investment aims to create a foundation for stability and security in the region. A thorough analysis of how this funding will be allocated, the specific projects it will support, and the anticipated impact on the local economy and community resilience is crucial. Investigating potential partnerships with local governments and organizations could provide insights into the feasibility and effectiveness of these initiatives. 2. Surveillance and intelligence sharing mechanisms. The emphasis on advanced surveillance and intelligence sharing as a means to enhance security raises significant concerns and discussions around privacy ethics and the potential for abuse. A deep dive into the technologies proposed, their implementation methods, and the frameworks for intelligence sharing among defense sectors is essential. Additionally, exploring the implications of increased surveillance on civil liberties and trust within the community can lead to a nuanced understanding of the strategy's broader social impacts. 3. Controversy and global reactions. The backlash from international organizations, local leaders, and Hamas officials indicates that the strategy is fraught with controversy. Analyzing the reactions from different stakeholders, including ethical, legal, and humanitarian perspectives, can help frame the debate surrounding the plan. Understanding the dynamics of international law and the potential ramifications of perceived unlawful actions will be important for assessing the plan's viability and the geopolitical landscape in which it operates. 4. Timeline of implementation and resistance. The outlined timeline for the plan's implementation, including key events and responses, offers a framework for understanding the evolving situation in Gaza. Analyzing the timeline can reveal patterns of resistance and support, as well as shifts in public opinion and international relations. Future projections based on current reactions may help in assessing the likelihood of successful implementation and the potential for escalated tensions or conflict in the region. In-depth analysis of these points can facilitate a comprehensive discussion on the multifaceted implications of Trump's 5-point strategy in Gaza, considering both immediate and long-term effects on security, governance, and the humanitarian landscape. 1. The Marshall Plan 1948–1952. After World War II, the United States implemented the Marshall Plan to aid the reconstruction of Western European economies. The plan involved approximately $13 billion, over $150 billion in today's dollars, in economic assistance aimed at rebuilding war-torn regions, stabilizing economies, and preventing the spread of communism. The plan emphasized infrastructure development, technological advancements, and economic cooperation among European nations. Despite its success in revitalizing Europe, it faced criticism from the Soviet Union and leftist groups that viewed it as a form of American imperialism. 2. The Suez Crisis 1956. The Suez Crisis was a diplomatic and military confrontation involving Egypt, Israel, the United Kingdom, and France. The crisis began when Egyptian President Gamal Abdel Nasser nationalized the Suez Canal, leading to a military intervention by Israel, the UK, and France. The United States under President Eisenhower opposed the invasion, primarily due to the potential for increased Soviet influence in the region. The crisis highlighted the complexities of foreign intervention and the geopolitical dynamics of the Middle East, with significant implications for international relations and the balance of power in the region. 3. The Gulf War 1990–1991. The Gulf War was triggered by Iraq's invasion of Kuwait in August 1990. A coalition led by the United States launched Operation Desert Storm in January 1991 to expel Iraqi forces from Kuwait. The war involved extensive military action and was characterized by the use of advanced technology and intelligence sharing among coalition forces. The aftermath included significant reconstruction efforts in Kuwait and the region alongside heightened tensions in the Middle East. The conflict raised discussions about international law, sovereignty, and the consequences of military intervention, shaping U.S. foreign policy in the region for years to come. The implementation of Trump's 5-point strategy in Gaza by Q2 2024, which involves a substantial investment of $1.8 billion in infrastructure and technology aimed at enhancing surveillance and intelligence sharing, presents a complex future landscape. This strategy is set against a backdrop of significant geopolitical tension, local resistance, and ethical concerns. Below is a predictive outlook on several key areas that may evolve as this strategy unfolds. 1. Infrastructure development and economic impact. The proposed $1.8 billion investment is intended to modernize Gaza's infrastructure, which could lead to short-term economic growth and job creation. However, the effectiveness of this investment will largely depend on the political stability of the region. If the infrastructure projects are successfully executed, they could foster a sense of normalcy and improve living conditions for Gazans. Conversely, if political tensions escalate, investments could be delayed or sabotaged, leading to wasted resources and further disenfranchisement of the local population. 2. Increased surveillance and intelligence sharing. The focus on advanced surveillance technologies and intelligence sharing among defense sectors is likely to reshape security dynamics in Gaza. Predictably, this could lead to improved monitoring of militant activities and potential threats, thereby enhancing the Israeli and U.S. security posture. However, the increase in surveillance may also raise significant privacy concerns and exacerbate tensions within the region, particularly among local populations who may feel targeted or oppressed by perceived invasive measures. 3. Reactions from local and international stakeholders. The backlash from local leaders and organizations, as well as international entities like the UN, suggests a contentious environment surrounding the implementation of the strategy. As the strategy unfolds, we can expect escalating protests. Increased dissatisfaction among Palestinians could lead to widespread protests against perceived foreign intervention, potentially escalating into violent confrontations. Shifts in political alliances. Local and regional actors may reassess their alliances, leading to a reconfiguration of political dynamics in the Middle East. Countries that perceive the strategy as a threat may strengthen ties with resistance groups or bolster their military presence in the region. 4. Impact on Hamas and other militant groups. Hamas's vehement opposition to the strategy hints at potential escalations in conflict. As the implementation progresses, we may witness increased hostilities. Hamas and other militant groups may resort to more aggressive tactics, including rocket fire or targeted attacks, as a response to perceived encroachments on their power and territory. Formation of new alliances. Other militant factions may align with Hamas in a united front against U.S. and Israeli efforts, complicating the security landscape further. 5. Legal and ethical challenges. The controversy surrounding the legality of the proposed strategies could lead to prolonged legal battles and diplomatic rows. As international scrutiny increases, the U.S. may face pressure to Re-evaluate the strategy. Ongoing pushback from UN officials and other nations may force the US to modify or walk back certain elements of the plan, creating a more collaborative approach to Gaza's future. Engage in diplomatic efforts. To mitigate backlash, the US may need to engage more deeply in diplomatic negotiations with Palestinian leaders and neighboring countries, potentially leading to new peace talks. 6. Long-term stability and governance. The long-term success of the 5-point strategy hinges on establishing stable governance in Gaza. If infrastructure and security measures lead to improved governance, this could pave the way for enhanced human rights. A more stable environment may encourage better governance practices and respect for human rights, though this will depend on the nature of the authorities implementing these changes. Economic sustainability. Continued investment and improvement in infrastructure could foster economic growth, potentially reducing the appeal of militant groups and offering alternative pathways for youth and marginalized communities. Conclusion. The future outlook for Trump's 5-point strategy in Gaza is fraught with uncertainty, characterized by potential for both positive developments and increased conflict. While the proposed investment in infrastructure and technology presents an opportunity for growth and stability, the accompanying geopolitical tensions, local resistance, and ethical concerns could undermine these goals. As the situation evolves, the international community will be watching closely, and the outcomes will likely shape not only Gaza's future but also broader Middle Eastern dynamics for years to come.